Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you I know all of you have been in committee voting, working with the Senate on compromises. So I thank you for doing that, okay? The prayer this afternoon is going to be offered by the delegate from Prince George's County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Happy second session, colleagues. Today marks 5 days of us coming to the end of the 2026 session. I pray we continue to move with kindness and grace and that all of our bills are passed out. And at the end of it all, our community would say, well done and good and faithful public servants. And in that spirit, Madam Speaker,
yes,
I ask that the body pray for a very special constituent of District 25. And while she may be my constituent, she serves all of us in the United States Senate. I ask that you all pray for our United States Senator Angela Alsobrooks and her family on the passing of her father, James Alsobrooks, who passed away on Tuesday, April 7th. Please keep in your prayers her mother, her sister Kim, and daughter Alex. James Alsobrooks not only worked hard to give his daughters everything their heart desires, but he also was a man of the community, advocating for his church and many others. I remember seeing him many times during my tenure at the county council fighting for what is right for the community. His Lord said unto him, well done, good and faithful servant. Can we please have a moment of silence for James Alsobrooks? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
you're welcome. Vice Chair of the Appropriations Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Can we
Colleagues,
listen for a second, please?
just a personal announcement so they can leave and go visit Main Street after they stay for half an hour. I grew up in Rockville, but my brother now lives in Pennsylvania. My brother Jeff and my sister-in-law Sylvia are here for the day visiting with us. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
I want to welcome you, and I have to tell you, she represents you well as the Vice Chair of the Appropriations Committee. Yes.
Madam
Okay.
Speaker.
Yes. Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
I apologize for being out of order, but they were here earlier, and the good Vice Chair did so. I just wanted to call out the Moms of Man Action and my constituent Kimberly Sue Blair. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Welcome. Okay. All right, may we do quorum call, please?
Madam Speaker.
Welcome to everyone that is with us. I know we have a couple of hours of work before we can get to recognize you, but welcome to the House. The clerk will call the roll. There being 132 members present, the House is now in session. The clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, March the 23rd, 2026.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the journal.
So order petitions, memorials, and other papers. We're going to start with yay and nay, consent calendar number 9. House bill passed in the Senate. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 94.
Recognizing the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
So much be considered the reading of House Bill 94, be considered the reading for all the bills on the calendar.
So order. Thank you. Okay. We have concurrence calendar number 3. The clerk will read the first bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 11, Anne Arundel County Sheriff, Appointment of Majors, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the Chair of the Judiciary Committee. The Chair of the Judiciary Committee. Okay, then.
Madam Speaker, my
Yes.
apologies.
It's okay.
We move to concur with the Senate amendments, please.
Okay, the question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 11 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 11, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 17, Estates and Trusts, Venue for Administrative and Judicial Probate and Application of Inheritance Tax, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee vice chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 17 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 17, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 187, Criminal Procedure, Expungement, No Finding in Case Terminated Without Finding, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the vice chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
We move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 187 is now on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 187, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 284, Public Safety Licensed Firearms Dealers, Notification Regarding Compromising Events, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee vice chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
We move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 284 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative and 36 votes in the negative, House Bill number 284, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 467, Correctional Services, Maryland Parole Commission, Improvements in Transparency and Equity, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the vice chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 467 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative and 37 votes in the Senate. I'm sorry, in the negative. Oh my goodness gracious. House Bill 467, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 738, Real Property Transfer on Death Deed Establishment, Amendment number 1.
It's been that day. Recognizing the vice chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
We move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 738 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker. Too late.
Let me finish. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 738, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Recognizing the lady from Howard.
Thank you. I wanted to explain my vote. It's too
Okay.
late. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for understanding. We have concurrence calendar number 4 for those of you that are following. The clerk will read the first bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 338, Department of General Services, Maryland Capitol Police, statewide jurisdiction, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the vice chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You are popular today.
Yeah. Motion to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 338 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 338, having received a constitutional majority, is declared pass. House Bill amended in the Senate. House Bill 907, the clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 907, criminal law, third-degree assault, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We move not to concur.
The question before the House is to not concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Said bill is returned herewith.
Now we're going to do messages. Senate Bill 334. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 334, criminal law, firearm crimes, machine gun convertible pistols, amendment number 1.
The clerk will read the message from the Senate.
The Senate refused to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House recede from its position. Said bill is returned herewith.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The committee chooses to recede from the House amendment.
The question before the House is to recede in the House amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The House has receded. Senate Bill 334 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker, if you mind,
Recognizing the minority leader.
what were the Senate amendments that we receded from? What's the difference, if any, between the bill now versus the bill we debated yesterday or 2 weeks ago? It's hard to remember at this point.
Let's give her a second.
So with respect to Senate Bill 334, there was language regarding shall versus may, and we receded to have a, to keep it as shall. We had changed it in the House to may, and the Senate wanted to keep it as shall. Now, you probably want to know where in the bill that appears.
I'd just like to know shall do what?
Shall do everything we say. No. Okay, on page 7, line 1. Just 1 second here, and I'll tell you exactly. On page 7, line 1. These pages are stuck together.
It always happens when you least expect it.
Murphy's Law here. Okay, on page 7, line 1, this is the Department of the State Police. And instead of saying they shall, they may adopt regulations to implement the bill. The Senate preferred they shall adopt regulations. The House was fine with may because, in fact, they're going to do it anyway, but the Senate preferred to say shall.
Okay, so we're just mandating that the state police are going to develop regulations of how to enforce the ban on these types of weapons.
Yes, because they maintain the list of prohibited firearms, and so this would be included in that list, and they prefer to shall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Senate Bill 334 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 91 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 334, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Senate Bill 334, criminal law, firearm crimes, machine gun convertible pistols.
We now are going to do a special order calendar. That is special order calendar number 58. Oh, hold on.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates recedes from its position on Senate Bill 334. Said bill is returned herewith.
I have no chocolate for you today, okay? Oh, you're going to share it. Okay. Special order calendar number 58. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 145, election law, election misinformation, election disinformation, and deepfakes. Favor report is amended and adopted.
I'm recognizing the maker of the motion, and it was the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
My questions have been answered. I have an amendment. I don't plan on offering it, but I know there's other amendments out there, so thank you.
You're welcome. Recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
Thank you so much,
Are you
Madam
the one
Speaker.
that has the other amendments?
I'm the guilty party.
Okay.
Yes, I have the amendment at the desk. Amendment number 213325/1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
Thank you so much, Madam
You're
Speaker. This amendment is simple. I think folks will get my drift. Basically, it adds in 2 separate places that this section, it may not be construed to or interpreted to restrict protected political speech, campaign communications, opinions, satire, parody, or criticism of candidates or officials. And it references at the bottom of the amendment, if you pull it up, a court case in particular where the language was pulled from. So the reason why this is a very important amendment, just to make crystal clear who is and is not in violation of this law, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say that I wanted to say that there is only one good, true candidate in District 3, just one, and everyone should vote for that candidate. Or it could be you. Or maybe I wanted to say it about District 39. I don't know. Maybe I have very strong feelings about just one candidate, and so I say they're the only candidate people should vote for, and I feel very strongly about this, and I say a bunch of other things. Technically, that speech, under the way the bill is written, could run afoul of this law, and I don't believe that if we don't include this disclaimer that this law will stand up to strict scrutiny, which is the standard that it will be judged under because it is restricting freedom of speech in the First Amendment. So with that, I would press my amendment.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker,
You're
and
welcome.
thank you to the gentlelady from Hartford County for the amendment and for getting it to us so we could review it. You know, I looked through this, and while I agree there's certainly, you know, one great representative from District 3, it is not this one. So there are ones out there, though. I will mention a couple things. This is a really exciting opportunity to talk about this bill, which has been before this body for a number of years, and we have been working very diligently to try to address 2 major issues here. There is election misinformation and disinformation, which is the first half of this bill, and then there's a section on deepfakes. And so I think we all know what deepfakes are, but let's start with the first half of the bill that just talks about election misinformation and disinformation. What that section is seeking to talk about is specifically about election information. That is time, place, location of where and when you vote. This is paramount to the ability for individuals to understand and to make sure that they have access to a ballot. Election disinformation and misinformation can get very wonky and kind of crazy, and so it's built into a civil side of this bill, which is the whole first half of the bill that's talking about election misinformation and disinformation. It's paramount to our elections that we make sure that that information is clear and that people are not telling folks to, for example, vote on the wrong day or, for example, to go to the wrong polling place. We need to make sure that that information is clearly laid out and that the State Board of Elections has the authority and ability to quickly disabuse that information publicly and be able to force that information to come down from the individual that's choosing to share misinformation or disinformation. The second half of this gets into the criminal side of the bill, which deals with deepfakes. And so this is where we are recklessly and knowingly attempting to use some kind of impersonation to force a voter to do something that they would otherwise not do. Again, this is a very serious implication for our voting processes and the way people get elected in our state and throughout our country, and is very much needed to be strengthened. And so we know that it is wrong to simply chill First Amendment speech. We agree on that always. However, we do know from our Attorney General's office that the process to ban fraudulent activity when it comes to trying to deliberately deceive or recklessly spread misinformation or disinformation is absolutely constitutional. I'll be happy to report to my good friend from Harford County that there are numerous safeguards already built into this bill that guarantee that countless individuals are exempted, including when it comes to deepfakes, which is the criminal side of this bill, the deepfakes that are satire and parody, and that is to assure that we cover those details. So I stress with the body the necessity to reject this amendment is because, one, the concept of how we communicate about our elections is paramount, and we need tools to make sure that our voters throughout our state have the ability to get access to the polling place. However, unfortunately, the gentlelady's amendment would essentially strike the entire bill as useless, because anybody could then claim that they were simply using campaign speech, campaign communication, opinion, they were sharing criticism of candidate, and therefore nothing in this bill would ever be able to be applied. And so for those reasons, and with great deference to my good friend, I'm going to ask everybody to please go ruby red on this amendment.
Funny.
Oh, the question, recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question for the floor leader.
Floor leader.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
So I got a couple scenario questions I wanted to ask, because
Sure.
the way I read this bill, if you're sharing disinformation or information that's proven later, you could be prosecuted. Who makes that decision?
So again, you're not, there's a civil case there. The state administrator on the civil side would be talking about disinformation and misinformation. The gentlelady's examples that she used, actually neither of those apply to this bill at all, because none of them were about either election information, that is time, place, location of an election, or dealing with deepfakes. So both of her examples wouldn't have counted.
A deepfake could be considered the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, where it actually had information that the FBI was the FBI had the laptop. Now, if someone shared that story, would that be considered illegal by this bill? Because I think that would be a deep fake.
It has to be a video or audio picture of the individual in order to be a deep fake.
What about the disinformation?
It again, that applies only to election information like time, place, and manner of voting.
And it doesn't have anything to do with the information dealing with the election. Just the time and place.
It has.
It doesn't have anything to do with...
I'll direct you directly to the language of the bill. And so on page 2 of your reprint, 2-110A2 says election disinformation means incorrect or misleading information regarding the time, place, or manner of an election, election results, or voting rights in the state that is knowingly and deliberately disseminated. And then part 3 says election misinformation means incorrect or misleading information regarding the time, place, or manner of an election, election results, or voting rights in the state.
Okay.
That's the exact information.
So what happens if someone just doesn't know, like your grandmother hits the share button and says that the election is on a Wednesday?
Yeah, so that is something that certainly would be reported, and the state board would then intervene and ask the individual to take that information down and share correct information, because as much as I appreciate a grandmother's good intention, that grandmother has a line of communication to other people who then might lose their right to vote because that information was inappropriately shared.
And who makes that decision to do that?
Again, the state board administrator is the person who looks into each of these cases and makes a determination about what the best course of action would be.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you. Would the maker of the amendment rise for a question, please?
Sure.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you again.
You too. Can you tell us, I think this will shed some light on your amendment and possibly the bill, about the act must meet the actual malice standard of the New York Times v. Sullivan. Can you tell us a little bit more about that case and why your amendment's important to this bill?
Yeah, well, I can do one better. Since then, there's another case on a bill almost exactly like this, out of California. So, and it was really ruled on quite recently, and it actually, in detail, went through the exact attempts that we're making here to restrict speech, and the requirements of that case were strict scrutiny. So there had to be a compelling government interest, and it had to be so narrowly tailored as to not needlessly affect somebody's constitutional rights. And it was enjoined immediately, as many of our laws here are. And then when the case was concluded, the actual outcome of the case was that it was unconstitutional on its face because the state failed to meet the standards of strict scrutiny, and because everywhere in the bill, it did not have an amendment just like this to make sure that speech that is clearly lawful was protected under California's law. So we will, if this bill passes in this form, I think run into the exact same concerns, constitutional concerns, that California ran into when they had their law just like this struck down not that long ago. It's a very interesting opinion. It's only 24 pages long. If anybody should want to read it, they're welcome to come back here. I have a copy here that's highlighted with all the great bits of where it actually reflects this exact law. And so my amendment actually attempts to make this law constitutional because it will not be found constitutional.
Thank you. Sounds like a perfect reason why we should support this amendment. If you like the bill and you want it to be lawful, you don't want the Attorney General of Maryland to waste millions of dollars defending this law in court just to have it overturned, this will help the bill become better. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
And just a brief note on that district court judge ruling that happened. I just want to make sure that it's very clear to the body. When we reached out to the Attorney General's office to request opinions on this, this was the actual case that we cited to make sure that we were lining up. The Attorney General wrote back without any hesitation at all that this bill is substantially different than the California legislation, and that this would absolutely hold up to constitutional muster. And so with that, again, I ask the body to please go red on this amendment.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
To explain my vote, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford County.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This bill has actually been heavily amended, so I'm not sure if there's an updated response from the Attorney General, but I can tell you for sure, if you look at the last page of the reprint, under the new language, under looks like D14, that language, and under number 2, those will absolutely not stand up to strict scrutiny. There is no way. They are patently unconstitutional restrictions on free speech, and I look forward to hearing our court case if this actually moves through the Senate, which I doubt that it will.
Okay. The clerk would take the call. There being 90 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Thank you. We have a special order calendar. For those of you that are following, is special order calendar number 61. The clerk will read the bill, please.
Senate Bill 141, election law, election misinformation, election disinformation, and deepfakes. Favorable report is amended and adopted.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you. All of my questions have been answered, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. Thank you. Special order calendar number 59. The clerk will read the bill, please.
House Bill 1069, election law, canvassing of absentee ballots, preemption by federal judicial action. Favorable report is amended and adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion, it is the delegate from Carroll County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Well, you're welcome.
I have an amendment at the desk, amendment number 403525-1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
In both, my amendment is pretty simple, as we always say. In both state and federal elections, in order to be considered timely and to be counted, the mailed absentee mail-in ballots must be received by the times the polls close on election day. Federal law says that mailed absentee mail-in ballots must be received by the close of polls on that day. If received 4 to 5 days after, as this bill is written, it states that they would be split so that the federal votes would not count, but on the exact same ballot, the state and local races would still be counted. So that would be eliminated by having everything count on that day. That's basically what the amendment does. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity and to talk about this amazing bill as well. And thank you to the good delegate from Carroll County for bringing the amendment forward and getting it to us in a timely fashion to review. So this is, just so everybody's aware how our current election process works, is you have a number of ways that you can vote in the state of Maryland. You can go and do early voting centers. You can drop off ballots at our drop boxes, at our drop boxes throughout our state. You can go into our polling places on election day, and you can receive a mail-in ballot, otherwise known as an absentee ballot, and you can then choose to mail that in or drop it off at one of your voting centers or at your local election board's office. And the goal there is really to make voting more accessible to every possible voter. So in order to make that accomplished, what we say in Maryland is that if you have your ballot in the mail and postmarked by election day, that we will count your ballot. Well, in order to account for the United States Postal Service that continues to get defunded by the federal government, that in order to make that work, we have to have an extended runway by when we reach and receive those ballots. And as long as it's postmarked by election day, we will count that ballot. So we have a 10-day window from the day of the election all the way to the last day when our local boards of election will accept that ballot. This amendment seeks to strike that language completely. Now, the purpose of the bill is specifically to address what we foresee happening with a current Supreme Court decision that should be coming down later this year. It will only be implemented should the Supreme Court decide that federal elections will not be counted if the ballot arrives after Election Day. However, we don't believe in Maryland that we should then disenfranchise our voters completely from all of their elections. So what this bill seeks to do is very simple. It says if the ballot arrives after Election Day, as is your constitutional right now in the state of Maryland, that we will bifurcate your ballot to make sure that we still count your state and local race, even though the federal government has blocked your ability to vote in your federal election. That will still count those state and local elections. The gentlelady's amendment would strike the ability for us to do that completely, which would completely negate the purpose of the bill. And so for those reasons, I would ask the body, sadly, to please vote red on this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
So
welcome.
if I understand this correctly, you're going to fill out a ballot. We're not going to change the ballots. And let's say you're going to start with President of the United States. And you're going to vote. You're going to mail it. The next one's going to be United States Senator, Congress, and then we're going to get to the state offices. And then we're going to get to your local offices, because on a federal ballot, you'll be talking about your maybe some county officials, maybe some folks like that. And we're going to count the state part of the ballot and throw out the federal part of the ballot. We're going to not count that. We're going to think that that's, so we have two systems of voting. You vote, you receive it, it's election night, it's 9 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock, it's 11 o'clock, and you say, we've cut it off, we've counted the ballots, this is who won for Congress in the 5th District. But I can't tell you who won for these other offices in the state, because we've got to let it open for X number of days to count more ballots that will come in. Are these, if the floor leader, my friend wouldn't mind an inquiry, most of these ballots, they're run through machines, correct? They're not hand counted. I mean, hundreds of thousands, sometimes a million people vote. They're not hand counted. They're run through machines. They're done digitally, correct?
They are, yes.
Right. So do we currently have a digital program that says disregard Office X, Office Y, Office Z, but count Office A, Office B, Office C?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite follow the question.
So we have a machine right now that counts all of the races. It counts Congress. Right. So we have an election coming up in a few months. I don't know if everybody in the room was aware of that.
Yeah.
And we have a machine that counts the congressional races. So you and I live in the 6th District, and you and I are eventually in November going to vote for someone in the 6th District, and when the machine reads your and I's ballot, it's going to count our vote for Congress. It's also, if you live in the 3rd District in Frederick County, it's going to count somebody's vote for you, presumably, or your opponents. Yep. If you live in District 1B, it's going to count for me or my opponents. Does the machine currently set up, if the Supreme Court makes this decision, to say you can't count any of those late filed absentee ballots, or not late filed, late received, they're received after the close of Election Day? Does the machine operate to say I can automatically kick out the federal races but count our races?
Yeah. So, the interesting fact, there are machines that can do that.
But we don't.
But that isn't necessarily the process that we might have to follow here. There's multiple, in the bill, we outline the fact that that the state board will set up the regulations by which we bifurcate those ballots. And I'll give you a very simple, very basic example of how that can be done. How it's currently done when there's a question, when there's a ballot that arrives that's damaged, for example. 2 members, one of each opposing party, will sit there with a new ballot and will hand fill in the results of that individual ballot that has been damaged, and make sure that the votes of that individual are accounted for before it goes through the Scantron machine. The same thing can be done in this specific case. The ballot arrives after Election Day through the mail, but it's postmarked by Election Day. The same election officials will then follow their same standard absentee process, and they will then make sure that the information for the state and the local election information is accounted for and dropped in. But that's just one example of countless ones. We didn't want to prescribe to the state board what that process should be. We want to leave that to them, the professionals in the room.
Is there a fiscal note or an expenditure anticipated to create this bifurcated system of voting that we've never done? And to my knowledge, you know, we're on a real winning streak today. No one else, I don't think, in America does it this way. Is there a fiscal expenditure to this?
Yeah. It very much depends on the method that they choose. There will naturally be, even if we print a few more ballots, that's going to cost a few more dollars. But we don't know exactly how much that's going to cost, because we're curious to see how many ballots are actually going to arrive after Election Day, especially with some of the great provisions in this bill that encourage people to remind them to mail in their ballots a week early.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, Mr.
Madam Speaker, briefly on the amendment, you know, we've learned to live with mail-in voting. That was something that a lot of people objected to. We've learned to live with early voting. That's what a lot of people objected to. And we try, as Republicans, over and over again to be like, okay, this isn't the way we would do it. I got to be honest with you. If we had elections, everybody would show up on Election Day, just like you did 20 years ago, and everybody would vote on Election Day. And unless you had some valid reason to be an absentee, that's how you would do it. That's how we would do it. But we've moved on and learned here in the 21st century that we're going to have expanded methods of voting, and that's okay. But now you want to push it even further. Now you want to be like the Supreme Court of the United States of America is highly likely to say you cannot accept ballots, you cannot count votes that are not received after Election Day. When Election Day is the end of Election Day for the federal offices that run this country. But here in Maryland, whoopsie, we'll just do it our way. And we'll create an entirely separate, segregated system to try to count your ballots for state offices, for local offices, because we don't like the Supreme Court. I don't know what we do like. We don't like the federal administration. We don't like the Supreme Court. We don't like the Congress. I don't know. It seems like we want to be our own nation with our own set of laws here in Maryland. That doesn't make sense. The gentlelady's amendment just tries to say you got one set of rules and everybody follows them, whether you like it, whether you don't. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House
Madam
is the
Speaker.
adoption of the amendment.
Madam Speaker.
What?
Speaker.
I already started. Can you can explain your vote, okay? Explain your vote. The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
In explaining your
Madam
vote,
Speaker.
recognizing the delegate from Baltimore City, then the delegate from Carroll County. Go ahead.
Colleagues, I am voting against this amendment because the State Board of Elections is already taking steps to encourage people to send in their ballots early. People are voting with their feet and with their postage stamps. An increasing number of our constituents are voting by mail. We should encourage the counting of their ballots. And so the State Board is going to encourage people to use drop boxes and to get it done early so that we don't run up against a Supreme Court decision reversing precedent that would result in their ballot not being counted.
Recognizing the delegate from Carroll County.
So during the break, I did speak with the Board of Elections, and there is a rather large fiscal note. It is a cost of $492,500 for this year and $182,000 per year for subsequent years. That's a major cost. If you're not aware, but I definitely am, I used to serve on the Board of Elections in Carroll County, that is split between the locals and the state. I know that my county, the local Board of Elections, cannot absorb this cost. It is a true cost. And when you speak about there's other ways of sitting there and counting them, I've been a party to those processes, and if you are adding this very, very large number, you know, typically there's very few damage that can't go through a machine, the machines of which we don't have. If we have to get to the point where we're having to get a count of a large stack of votes, that's going to take more than the 2 weeks that it typically takes. You're talking about a month and maybe longer. And it's also a challenge not only to get judges on election day, try getting people to come back a couple weeks after the election to sit down at a table for hours, a couple days a week, for several weeks. You're not going to know who won that election. I think this is a very fair amendment, and I hope that people will change their mind and please support my amendment. Thank you.
You're welcome. Recognizing the delegate from Southern Maryland, then Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
As a soldier, they would always talk about the cost of democracy, and that somehow my life was worth the cost of democracy. I would argue that the voice of people is worth the cost of whatever it takes to count these votes. And these are votes that were mailed out in good faith because they want their voice to be heard. And that is the true voice of democracy. And to say that because it may be a little expensive for these citizens to be heard is patently offensive. I'm voting no on this because I believe in the voice of the democracy, which is each and every person that casts their vote. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm a
You're
red
welcome.
vote on this amendment because we have servicemen and women serving overseas, and they're serving this country, and I want to make sure that we have time to get their ballots in and those votes are counted. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. The clerk will take the call. There being 95 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. We have another special order calendar. It is special order calendar number 60. The clerk will read the bill, please.
House Bill 1353, homeless individuals, fee and examination exemptions. Favor report is amended and adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion, the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have
You're
an amendment at the
welcome.
desk. Amendment number 253825.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
So I was inspired by the floor leader on this bill. Where are you going? I'm not the floor leader. Okay. Yeah, where are you going? So I was inspired because the floor leader made a great point. And what she said was, with waiving the admissions fee, it was an opportunity to help these young people out, save them some money, get them on their feet. And so what my amendment does is it rolls back the doubling of the admissions fee in Maryland. So just to recap, not every county in Maryland requires the admissions testing, right? Half the counties, approximately, there's 10 I think, don't require admissions testing at all. But for everyone else, including those in Frederick County, looking back there in Frederick County, we have the VEEP testing. And by the way, if you have a vehicle that is 6 or 7 years from being new, doesn't apply to you. If you have a vehicle that's 25 years old or older, doesn't apply to you. So this weird 1990 to 2000 range category, for all those folks that have those vehicles, the admissions program applies and your fees were just doubled. Talk about insult to injury, right? Your registration fee, doubled. Your titling fees, doubled. And your admissions fees doubled. This is the one thing that I think Republicans, Democrats, independents in Maryland all agree they hate. My goodness, they hate. So what my amendment does, great amendment, it just rolls back the admissions fee from $30 to $15. Here's an opportunity for all of us to come together. It's not going to have a big fiscal note. It's not going to tank the economy in Maryland. But what it's going to do is it's going to show Marylanders that you stand for affordability, you stand for reasonableness, and in the words of the previous floor leader, let's do something to help Marylanders out, make it a little more affordable, get them back on their feet. For that, I move the amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. The floor leader. Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Thank you to the minority whip for getting the amendment to us. And also, I just personally want to appreciate the minority whip for his creative, strategic thinking and joining with the majority in wanting to help folks who really need a helping hand. And that is much appreciated. It means we can work together. We can find a way. However, on the amendment, the proposed amendment, I would urge the body to resist. And here's why. First, we're not sure what the impact of the good delegate proposal might have on our fiscal picture. And I think that level of uncertainty is less than ideal, less than optimal right now, as we've already passed a balanced budget and we're striving to protect affordability in the state for all of our people. Secondly, I urge the body to resist the amendment because, in fact, what the bill strives to do is help the most vulnerable among us. The average Marylander who is working and earning income is in a different position than a Marylander who's experiencing homelessness. And although many homeless folks experiencing homelessness do work every day, in fact, a few years ago, I joined with a good delegate from Harford County in solving a housing problem for one of my constituents who went to work every day at a Baltimore City parking facility and yet had no housing and slept in his car every night. So folks who are experiencing homelessness do work, but with a little bit of a helping hand, removing a what seemed to many working Marylanders a minor fee could help someone at the far end of extreme vulnerability join the rest of Marylanders in contributing to our economy and our communities. So with that, I urge the body to resist the amendment.
Okay. Recognizing the minority whip.
Just look, in conclusion, I mean, look, if you save 15 here plus the $12.50 a month you save on your new energy bill, it's 27 bucks. You know, this is an easy lift, right? We doubled the fee for emissions, a program that is basically completely obsolete in the state of Maryland. And I think this is an opportunity to save some money. I hope that you guys will support it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the chair of the Appropriations
Thank
Committee.
you. I just want to give an assist to the great defense by the floor leader. We were able to check with the appropriations staff to find out what this would actually cost. Madam Speaker, this would be by far the largest fiscal note passed by this chamber this entire session. $30 million. That's what this thing costs, $30 million. For that reason, just as my position of Chair of Appropriations, I urge a red vote.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel. In explaining your vote?
Yes, ma'am. That would be
Thank
$30
you.
million of taxpayers' money back to them. So thank you.
You're way too happy back there. Too happy. The clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is auto printed for third reading. Special order calendar number 62. The clerk will read the bill, please.
Senate Bill 515, Health Services Cost Review Commission, Health Facilities, Rate Setting. Favorable report is amended and adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion, the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think my questions have been answered at this point in time about the bill.
Thank you. Seeing no other additional amendments or questions, the bill is order printed for third reading. Special order calendar number 63. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 638, Natural Resources Maryland Heritage Areas Authority, Funding and Grants. Favorable report is amended and adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion, the delegate from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Following significant debate and analysis, my questions have all been answered.
Okay, seeing no other amendments or questions, the bill is order printed for third reading. We're going to go now to the report of the Committee on Rules and Executive Nominations. It is report number 6, consent calendar number 3. The clerk will read the bill in the committee it is referred to.
House Bill 1602, re-referred to Health.
You have more? House Bill amended in the Senate. House Bill 146. The clerk will read the bill. Oh, 1 second. 1 minute. Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that we refer all of these bills to the appropriate committee.
Okay, thank you. You had a great assistant there. House Bill amended in the Senate. House Bill 146. The clerk will read the bill in the Senate amendments. Recognizing the chair. I'm waiting for the clerk, sorry.
House Bill 146, Environment On-Site Wastewater Systems, Requirement for Inspection and Pumping Services, and Implementation Dates. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate amendments strike language that would have established requirements for inspection and pumping services, and we would move not to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is not to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Stein, Chair, Delegate Guyton, and Delegate T. Morgan. Said bill is returned herewith.
House bill amended in the Senate. House Bill number 663. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 663, Department of the Environment, Federal Environmental Policy Reporting, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair, the Environment and Transportation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate amendment requires the Maryland Department of Environment to also report back on any changes in federal environmental policy that relate to nuclear power, even though the Department of Environment has nothing to do with that, so we would move to not concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is not to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendment and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Stein, Chair, Delegate Frazier Hidalgo, and Delegate Anderson. Said those returned herewith.
Concurrence calendar number 5. The clerk will read the first bill in the Senate amendments.
House Bill 30, Public Safety, Department of State Police, Police-Initiated Towing Alterations, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair of the Environment and Transportation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
The
welcome.
Senate amendment strikes an inadvertently included reference. We move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 30 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill 30, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 342, Forestry Licenses, Applicant Qualifications, Alterations, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The
You're
Senate
welcome.
amendments return to the law the 2-year experience requirement for a forestry license that was inadvertently struck. Move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 342 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 129 votes in the affirmative and 4 votes in the negative, House Bill number 342, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 451, Maryland Zero Emission Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Council, Membership Duties and Sunset Repeal, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The
You're
Senate
welcome.
amendments strike the repeal of the membership on that council for representatives of the fuel cell electric vehicle industry. We would move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 451 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative and 37 votes in the negative, House Bill number 451, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will be so kind and read the next bill.
House Bill 578, Fish and Wildlife, Endangered and Threatened Species and Migratory Birds, Regulations, List, Petitions, Essential Habitats, and Takings, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
The Senate amendments authorize the Department of Natural Resources to adopt management protocols for essential habitat for endangered and threatened species and strikes a prohibition against the taking of certain migratory birds. We'd move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 578 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative and 34 votes in the negative, House Bill number 578, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker,
Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
my button didn't work on 578. I'd like to be recorded in the red, please.
You're welcome. Make sure you turn in your yellow slip. Any other vote change? All right. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 829, Public Utilities for Hire Drivers and Transportation Network Operators, Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Training and Liability. Amendment number 1.
Okay. Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The
You're
Senate
welcome.
amendments just conform the bill to the Senate version that we already passed. I move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Recognizing the lady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Could the floor leader please answer a question for me?
Floor leader, the chair of the committee.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. So I supported the bill when it was a 20-minute online training. I actually looked at the training and saw it wasn't onerous. Did this amended bill make it harder?
No, it changes a few words and some dates, but it doesn't change the timing of the training.
So it's not more onerous to do the human trafficking awareness training? You didn't make them take a class or do anything like that?
It should not be any more onerous than what we've previously passed, the Senate bill that's already been through the floor.
Okay, thank you.
House Bill 829 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill number 829, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1164, Water Companies, Sewage Disposal Companies, and Water and Sewage Disposal Companies, Limited Income Mechanisms. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate amendments strike provisions in the bill requiring limited income mechanisms to be adopted by water and sewage disposal companies, and instead allows the Public Service Commission to require one or more of those companies to adopt a limited income mechanism in the same way as other utility companies, meaning it would be on the regulator to determine the limited income mechanism. We would move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 1164 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 125 votes in the affirmative and 6 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1164, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will call the next bill.
House Bill 1230, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission Procurement Alterations.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate amendments require the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission's Business Participation Program to give preference to local small businesses and local businesses. I'd move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 1230 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 122 votes in the affirmative and 11 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1230, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Vote change, recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Vote
welcome.
change concurrence on House Bill 342 to no, please.
You're welcome. Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
HB 829, my button didn't work, in the green, please.
All right, remember to turn in your yellow slips, recognizing the delegate from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 578 to yay.
Thank you. The gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Yes, Madam Speaker. House Bill 451 to red from green.
Thank you. Remember to do your yellow slip. Any other vote change? We're going now on to the report of the Committee on Judiciary. It is report number 43. The clerk will read the bill, please.
Senate Bill 298, Department of General Services, Maryland Capitol Police, statewide jurisdiction. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader, the vice chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Move so much be considered a reading of the amendment.
So order.
The amendment specifies that before a police officer of the Maryland Capitol Police exercises the powers granted under the bill in Baltimore City, the Maryland Capitol Police must enter a memoranda of understanding with the Baltimore City Police Department. This bill, as amended, is identical to HB 338, which has passed this House earlier this session unanimously. Thank you. Move the amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is auto printed for third reading. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
The clerk will call the roll. There being 134 members present, the House is still in session. We are going to do some House third reading calendar, and we're starting with number 137. The clerk will be so kind and read the first bill, please.
House Bill 694, Income Tax Addition Modification for Federal Tax Exempt Income Study.
House Bill number 694 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 694, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 700, Higher Education, Public Senior Higher Education Institutions, Direct Admission Program and Study.
House Bill number 700 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 700, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1587, Gaming, Operation of Electric Instant Bingo Machines, and Report by State Lottery and Gaming Control Agency.
House Bill number 1587 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1587, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1598, Horse Racing Racetrack Facility Renewal Account Grants Alteration.
House Bill number 1598 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 127 votes in the affirmative and 6 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1598, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1604, Public School System Contracts Prohibited Provisions.
House Bill number 1604 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1604, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Any vote change? We're doing next calendar third reading House Bill number 138, and the clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 500, Sales and Use Tax, Precious Metal Bullion or Coins Exemption.
House Bill number 500 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 500, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 654, Natural Resources, Maryland Heritage Areas Authority, Funding and Grants.
House Bill number 654 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 124 votes in the affirmative and 10 votes in the negative, House Bill number 654, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 666, Research Facilities and Testing Facilities that use animals, Prohibitions and Adoption Requirements, Animal Research Modernization and Best Protection Act of 2026.
Wow, that was long. And what a number it has. I don't like that number. Okay, House Bill 666 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 121 votes in the affirmative and 13 votes in the negative, House Bill number 666, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 701, Department of Natural Resources, Water Resources, Identification of Vernal Pools, Jack Cover Vernal Pool Wetlands Protection Act of 2026.
House Bill number 701 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I wanted to comment briefly on the bill, and I do appreciate the bill sponsor reaching out to me to talk a little bit about it. When I was a young man, I used to go up to Garrett County with some friends, and we used to play in a lot of these. We used to call them puddles, but we'd find newts and salamanders and frogs and other things living there. And I feel that the way this bill is structured is going to lead to a massive infringement on property rights. I know this bill is initially about reporting, but with the magnitude of what are defined as vernal pools in the bill, I mean, there are thousands or tens of thousands of these all over the state, and you can literally find them everywhere. So I think this is going to lead in the future to, as the lady said previously, what we're seeing in California in regard to property rights, whether it be development or building a shed on your own property. I think this is likely the camel's nose under the tent, and that's why I'll be a no today.
Okay. The clerk would take the call.
Madam Speaker.
The clerk will call the roll. There being 94 votes in the affirmative and 38 votes in the negative, House Bill number 701, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1168, State Department of Education, Sexual Abuse and Sexual Misconduct Model Response Policy Requirements.
House Bill 1168 is on third reading passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1168, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1214, Vehicle Manufacturers and Dealers, Dealer and Manufacturer Associations, Administrative Hearings.
House Bill number 1214 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1214, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Any vote change? We're doing calendar of third
Madam
reading.
Speaker.
Oh, recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Sorry, I wasn't quick enough, Madam Speaker.
okay.
Vote change HB 1587 to red, please.
Recognizing the lady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
House Bill 1587 to read, please.
Turn in your yellow slips. Any other vote change? Recognizing the gentleman from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
654
welcome.
to green.
Yellow slip. Anyone else? All right. Calendar third reading, House Bill number 139. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
House Bill 420, Modernizing Civil Relief for Service Members Act.
House Bill number 420 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 420, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 706, State Finance Delinquent Federal Funds Federal Obligations Enforcement Act.
House Bill number 706 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I'll keep it brief. We said a lot on second reader. Look, this bill is probably unusually unconstitutional, for one. Two, the fact that you would think that we could place liens on critical federal institutions here in Maryland that could jeopardize federal employees, their missions, NASA, Fort Detrick, it's wild to me. I think legislating, I'll say this. My mother always said, you never go shopping for food when you're hungry. You should never legislate when you have a heart filled with revenge or hatred, because this bill, this isn't a good bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I won't talk about revenge or people's hearts, whatever. I will talk briefly, though, about a case for a very long time ago. Those of you who are unfortunate enough to go to law school may remember, because you hear about it your first, second, or week there. It's called McCulloch versus Maryland. And it involves Maryland. And it involved the state of Maryland in, I believe, the early 1800s, a few years after our nation was formed, trying to place a tax on a national bank that Congress created. Maryland didn't want it. And they said, well, here's what we're going to do. You can have your bank, but we're going to tax it. We're going to impede it. And the first Chief Judge of the United States Supreme Court, John Marshall, determined that you could not do that. And he said states cannot interfere with the constitutional operations of the federal government. Full stop. States cannot interfere with the constitutional operations of the federal government. You're going to say, I'm sure, that, well, we're not, because a court has determined that the federal government hasn't given us our money. And I would suggest to you that the reason why these types of disputes have arisen from Democrat, Republican, probably Whigs, and other people who were our presidents way back in the 1800s, these types of disputes have arisen, and no state has ever attempted to do what your solution is. We'll go and place a lien or a levy on your federal property and interfere with the constitutional operation of, I don't know, the Naval Academy, or Walter Reed, or Fort Detrick, or the Aberdeen Proving Ground, or the Pax River Naval Air Base. That is just crazy. It will not succeed. It will garner some headlines. It will get some clickbait. It will cause an attorney general to have to appear in court and spend more of our money. This is a bad, bad idea. It's not a bad idea because it's going to actually happen in public policy. It's just a bad idea because it is transparent for 200 or more years that states are subordinate to the federal government, and you cannot interfere with their operations in this form and fashion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing, one second, recognizing the lady from Prince George's.
Madam Speaker,
yes.
I'm not a parliamentarian. I don't pretend to be a parliamentarian. But what I do know is that we all bring forth bills that we are passionate about, however it came. And we need to have decorum on this floor, and impugning one's motive is unacceptable. It's totally unacceptable, and we've had enough of it. It's enough of it. And so I would just say that we need to just accept that we all have passion about particular bills, whether or not, I'm just going to leave it there. We all need to we have passion about bills, and that's why we bring them.
And 1 second. I appreciate that. I was actually talking and missed what was said. Otherwise, I would have caught it. But I ask people to please be careful when they talk. Saying something mean is not going to make the point you're making make more sense or more important. It's not going to validate it. So just get up and make your point and make it in a respectful way. All right? It's the way we speak. Yelling is not going to make it. Using words that offend are not going to make it. It's just not worth it. So I agree with a young lady from Prince George's County, okay? We have 4 more days left. 4 days. So we're almost making it. Okay? We done amazing. Let's not ruin it. Okay? Pretend that you're talking to the person that you love the most. And give them that respect. All right? Recognizing the chair of the Appropriations Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do feel the need to further elaborate on this point, if that's okay with you. Revenge in your heart is a funny thing to opine on when we have a real-world example, Madam Speaker, of exactly what this bill is attempting to fix. The good people of Western Maryland faced a catastrophic flood, a once-in-a-generation flood. And you know, the people in this body, I don't think had revenge in their hearts when they put $12 million in the budget to respond to that when the federal government did not. The people in this body, when we passed the minority leader's bill to say, hey, if we have these catastrophic events on this floor, we voted unanimously to say, hey, you know what, let's bind together and maybe use rainy day funds to respond to it. I think the people in this body bind together, by and large, Republicans and Democrats alike, when we face these catastrophic events. And you know, I do think that we have a duty to taxpayers in this state, Madam Speaker, to say, if Congress has created programs like FEMA, have allocated money, have said that states like Maryland should get it, the courts have then ruled, yes, deliver them the money, and the federal government still says, no, we won't. We have an obligation to respond to that in whatever way we can. And this bill does it in a number of ways, not just with liens. But I know I stand here with no revenge in my heart. I think we all want to help all of the good people of Maryland, which is why we responded like we did in Western Maryland. And I urge a green vote.
Recognizing the vice chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to address a few points on the bill, and this might be the best day of my life because I'm gonna school the minority leader on the law. But I will say the only reason I'm so prepared on McCullough versus Maryland is because he told me about it 3 hours ago. So. So to make fun of myself in the process. So thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a few points to make, and I think I said part of it earlier today when people ask the question of, you know, why are we doing this? Is it against one person? Is it against one administration? And it's against, as we described, the lawlessness, but not the lawlessness that we've said. It's the lawlessness that comes from our federal courts and part of our federal system. So I gave a few examples earlier today from Crisfield in Somerset County, $36 million from Hooper's Island, $25 million for causeway repairs. The current administration terminated different federal grants even after Congress allowed for it. USDA refused to fund SNAP, leaving millions of Americans without assistance. There are so many examples and too many examples to count, and that is a shame. What I have in my heart is love for this country and love for the rule of law, and that's not what I'm saying happen here. I think this bill does a small thing to correct that. So if I can address the court case from 1819 that the minority leader referenced, it was about banking, and certainly if, I'll just look at my colleague who's kind of being a little loud like I can be on the floor sometimes. You know, he referenced this McCullough versus Maryland case, which had to do with banks. And, you know, the point to be made is, you know, he's trying to talk about the supremacy clause, and it's by all means, federal law always wins in the rock, paper, scissors contest with state law. However, that's not what's happening with this legislation, and thank you for the majority leader for coming up with this. What's happening here is that this is federal law versus federal law, and the courts win out. So anyone who is saying that the state is overriding federal law misunderstands what this bill is doing. It misunderstands federalism. These are federal courts. So back to McCullough versus Maryland. I would say the bill ensures the authority is backed by the highest legal weight in the land. Once a federal court speaks, its interpretation of federal law becomes the standard that states and agencies must respect. So these are cases where you would say, even though if you want to make arguments about the supremacy clause, and he's such a smart lawyer, this is a tough job for me, if you want to make arguments about implied powers, but if the federal government is found to have acted illegally, it has exceeded its necessary and proper boundaries. SB 828 uses federal court findings to define the limits of executive overreach. I hope I've done an okay job and that I'll get a... Do I pass your law school class? All right, that's... I would have been grateful for those grades in college. So, Madam Speaker, again, I'm proud to vote for this bill. And to everyone else, don't let someone tell you this is states over feds. This is requiring the federal government to follow federal law. Thank you.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote, recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to explain my red vote here because this, there's a saying...
Will the minority whip please sit? I'll recognize you when she's done talking. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome. Go ahead.
There's a saying, get the log out of your eye before you take the twig out of your neighbor's. This is an invitation for a broad federal IG investigation into various programs the federal government funds here in Maryland. A separate 2025 closeout review across 8 major agencies flagged $3.42 billion total in unsupported federal revenue accruals. State Highway MTA accounted for $1.355 billion plus $888 million in potential unfunded liabilities. These are systemic documentation issues that have been turned over by audits of Maryland's programs they coordinate with the federal government. So I think this, if we start down this road, Maryland could be the big loser.
The minority whip, and then I'm going to Anne Arundel, then Prince George's, then Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to
welcome.
point out one, the sponsor of the bill is a friend of mine, and I immediately texted him after that speech that I gave. I'll just say this. In my opinion, I feel like there's been a lot of legislation this year that has been in response to things that are happening at the federal government. I'm not in the federal government. I'm not a congressman. I'm just a state rep looking out for the folks in my district. So certainly not trying to impugn anyone's motives in here. I'm friends with the overwhelming majority of you. But that is a feeling in my heart that I think there's been a lot of legislation kind of retaliatory to me, only to me. But the sponsor of the bill knows that I'm a fan of his, and hopefully he feels the same way. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
You're
to explain
welcome.
my vote. I am not trying to shop while hungry, nor do I have hate in my heart. I'm voting green because of those constituents who called in fear when there was a threat of no SNAP over the holidays. To those who my father was helping as their homes they were absolutely flooded back home in Western Maryland, while neighbors just a few miles away in West Virginia got the FEMA aid that they also deserved, but we were left out back home. So that is what my green vote is for. It is for the love of those who need SNAP benefits. It is love in my heart for those in Western Maryland who needed FEMA, but just a few miles away, West Virginia got it, but we did not.
Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's, then Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I don't know how many of you know, I worked 5 years for FEMA. I saw what happened in Hurricane Katrina. I packed my bags and I said, not in my country. And I went to the front lines. When I came back, coming back from that kind of scenario, it's like coming back home from a war. I had to get myself together mentally because being in the front lines of a catastrophic disaster like that was a very serious situation. I was stationed out in the front line of Biloxi, Mississippi, where I helped people who did not think like me and were very different from me. And I got called, after a while, I got called, I thought it was an endearment being called a damn Yankee. But anyway, those were just kind words after a while. But the thing is that I would never, ever want to experience that again here in my home state of Maryland. And for that is my green vote. Thank you, everybody. Please, I urge you to stay the course. Thank you.
Baltimore County, then Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Rule of law. I have spent a great part of my career down here talking about the rule of law and that people should get what they bargained for. We should be fair, we should be predictable, and we should know if we bargained for something, if we contracted for something, we should get it. This language, which is amazingly simple in this bill, brilliant, and the floor leader did an amazing job explaining it. If the Board of Public Works determines the federal government to be delinquent in federal funds owed to the state, then they can vote to try and collect the funds that are owed to them. And they can do what they want to try and collect it. I have spent my career helping clients try and get what they bargained for. It's that simple. The state of Maryland deserves, if we got a contract with the federal government to get something, and they refuse to give it to us, we should have every right and try to do everything we can to get that money, to get those funds, to get those services. This is a great bill, and I think that the courts are going to side with us and show the administration that you get what you bargained for. I am thrilled with a green vote.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Being from Hartford County, APG is our largest employer. So many of my colleagues already explained how we feel that this is not a good bill, unjust bill, and doing it for possibly political reasoning. But the main thing that I wanted to point out that we didn't hear yet, with us doing this and being the only state with such a law as this, I believe it will actually jeopardize government projects and government jobs coming to places like APG, which will really hurt the state in the long run. And so that's why I have a red vote, and I hope many others join me. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Colleagues,
welcome.
thank you for engaging in this discussion. And I just want to clear the record for why I brought this bill and some of the context. I bring this bill out of love. My legislative director is from Hoopers. That's actually one of the places that's going to be underwater without help, and they had money that was appropriated by the federal government and has been illegally denied. So believe it or not, I've been monitoring that situation, as well as in Crisfield, where they're facing the same thing in a Republican area. I've been monitoring it now for almost a year, trying to figure out how we can do this. And I'll make the commitment to you that if we do flip back and take the House, one of my first asks for our congressional delegation is to make Maryland whole. And it's not just the FEMA money. We're owed EV charging money. There's farms in Carroll and Hartford that installed solar that have not been reimbursed. They've already installed it. The money has been appropriated. They're not being reimbursed. Dozens of farmers in Maryland are not being made whole. I see the delegate from Western Maryland back there who was in our committee in Judiciary trying to get more fast relief because the feds are illegally withholding disaster money. That's what this bill is about. And let me be clear about what a lien does. It does not shut down a facility. It simply records our interest, and if the facility is sold, we get to collect. And maybe you forget the federal government tried to sell multiple buildings in our state last year, including the Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid buildings in Woodlawn, the post office in Salisbury, Frederick, Urbana Corporate Center. They had dozens of buildings for sale, and guess what? If we cloud the title when they try to do that, I'm happy for that case to drag out in court and save our Maryland jobs and facilities. This is a good bill, and we should go to the mat for our people who are being illegally denied disaster assistance funding. That's immoral. It's not political. That's immoral. We fight for one Maryland.
The clerk would take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative and 37 votes in the negative. House Bill number 37, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 817, carbon dioxide capture, removal, and sequestration projects, regulations and standards for biochar and wood vault technology.
Okay. House Bill number 817 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. Can the floor leader rise and tell us what carbon dioxide capture is?
The floor leader, recognizing the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Yes, carbon capture is when there are certain things, like organic materials, that when they decompose, they emit carbon because they are composed of carbon atoms, and they emit carbon. And so what carbon capture in this sense is it keeps that carbon dioxide from going into the atmosphere. It keeps the carbon from going into the atmosphere.
So who pays for this?
There's no cost to this, delegate. This is just saying that when an entrepreneur or a private citizen of Maryland, a private person of Maryland wants to engage in one of these or to employ one of these procedures, that the Department of the Environment, the Maryland Department of the Environment, will have regulations that they can go to so that they fall under the regulations and do it in a proper way.
So there has to be a payment somewhere. Businesses don't just bury trees or capture carbon for free.
Well, there are ways, my understanding is, there are ways to make money. There are people who are interested in doing this, who are actually doing this, and actually what they do, it's complicated technology. Don't ask me how they do it, but they are able to capture the carbon and then turn it into energy, clean energy to, for example, power farm equipment could be an example of how it could be used.
So they bury trees and turn it into energy that they power their farm equipment with.
Well, that was an example. But, and again, I'm not that familiar with the intricacies of the technology, but there are groups everywhere that support this technology. There are entrepreneurs who are doing this all over the country, and for Maryland to be in the forefront of this technology, we have to have regulations that allow it to happen.
So, okay, but I'll go back to who's getting paid. Because again, businesses don't do these things for free. Nobody does this. An individual wouldn't do it for free. There has to be someone who's paying for this carbon dioxide capture.
Yeah. It can also be used for carbon credits, which is real money that comes on the carbon market. Again, I don't understand the intricacies of that, and I think that this is for private individuals who are interested in employing this technology for whatever reason to their advantage. All that this bill does is that it says that the Maryland Department of the Environment will develop regulations so they can do that.
Are there any risks to the state of Maryland for this?
No.
No risk in CO2 capture?
Not with respect, that's why we want regulations, to make sure that they're within the proper, they do the proper things to make sure that there isn't any risk, but there really isn't any risk to the state of Maryland for this. We're just, again, Delegate, all that this does is it doesn't mandate anything except to tell the Maryland Department of the Environment, in consultation with the Maryland Department of Agriculture, to develop regulations so that this technology can be employed by private individuals.
So if the wood vault technology fails, who's on the hook? If there's some environmental issue with this, biochar is burning wood. I've done a little research because carbon dioxide capture, removal, and sequestration projects are, as you've stated, Madam Floor Leader, complicated. And so again, follow the money. Follow the money, and I'm having a hard time following the money, and I'm hoping you can help me with that, because we don't need to regulate an industry that isn't making money because people won't do it.
Well, Delegate, people are doing it. I mean, there are people who are doing it. They're the ones who came to us and asked us for to get the Maryland Department of the Environment to do the regulations. And the purpose of the regulations is, as you point out, to make sure that it's done safely and it's done within the confines of what makes sense for the environment here in Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Floor Leader. I appreciate you. Our civil discussion here on the floor this evening.
Thank you.
I'm going to be voting against this bill. Big companies buy these carbon credits, Microsoft, JP Morgan, airlines, and in the end, we pay for it because the consumers, the cost on this stuff is driven down to consumers. It hasn't worked anywhere. Just look to California, and you will see this isn't a good idea. So thank you very much.
Madam Speaker?
Yes, recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
Thank you so much. May I ask a question of the floor leader, please?
Yes.
Madam Floor Leader, is this already occurring in the state?
It is on a limited basis, yes.
Can you, and is it, have we had any issues? Are there any concerns at this point with it? Do we know where it is occurring?
Thank you. I don't know of any concerns. I know of a couple of projects, I believe, in Charles County, I think, or
they're in Nanjemoy.
Yes.
And have there been any issues, concerns, problems?
Not that I know of. The only problem was trying to get the project approved under the current regulations that don't really really envision this kind of technology, and so that's why we want the regulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For the floor leader.
Floor leader.
Is carbon dioxide a pollutant?
I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes, that's irrelevant, I think, to this.
It's not a pollutant.
This is about, well, first of all, this is about...
Let's let her answer, please. You asked the question.
This
let
is about,
let her answer.
This is about
Thank you.
capturing carbon that goes into the atmosphere. That's this whole issue of fossil fuels. That's what fossil fuels emit, is carbon. And so because carbon dioxide is in living things, when living things decompose or die, they emit carbon. And this is about carbon.
And other living
carbon.
things absorb carbon, correct?
Excuse me?
And other living things we need carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. Am I correct?
this is completely irrelevant to this. I mean, I'm happy to, I'm not a scientist, and I don't know photosynthesis. I'm not really in a position to discuss photosynthesis. The only point is, what this bill does is it requires the Maryland Department of the Environment to develop regulations so that this technology can be employed when someone wants to employ it. That's it.
Will the gentlelady yield?
It's my, the floor is mine.
One second. Hold on 1 second, okay? 1 minute.
Go ahead.
The floor, the gentleman has the floor.
Thank you.
Okay? But I'll ask the gentleman, will you be so kind and yield to the gentleman?
Absolutely. I'd
Thank
love
you
to
very
yield to
much. Gentleman from Prince George's County,
Just
go
want
ahead.
to answer your question. Yes, carbon. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Just want to say yes. CO2 is pollution. This is the purpose of that. But go ahead and answer the question.
And where are you getting that from? You know that carbon dioxide is essential to life. Could we agree on that? That plant life cannot live without CO2?
Yes.
Okay, recognizing 1 second.
Madam
The
Speaker,
gentleman has the floor.
Yes,
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
Can you go ahead and just make your point? Go ahead. Just make your point.
My point is, why are we capturing something that is essential for life? That's my point. I will sit down. So,
Madam Speaker. Recognizing the chair of the Environment and Transportation Committee.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Water is also essential for life, but you can drown, and we build
Let's
dams,
listen.
and we build water tanks. Now, onto this bill, here's what happened, okay? A business person approached some members of the General Assembly and said, I am trying to do a business in the state of Maryland. It's something I thought we all wanted, but the regulatory structure that's in place is not conducive to that business. Can you help get the departments to help us allow our business to go forward? And so we tried to work with the departments informally during the interim, as the Speaker's always encouraging us to do, and we just couldn't get there. And so folks got together, the chair of the EEE committee, the chair of the non-energy utilities subcommittee, and worked on a bill to push the departments to allow a business that wants to start, work, and prosper in Maryland to do so. And that's all this bill does. Now, you may not be interested in their product or how they sell their product or how they make money, but all this bill does is put a regulatory structure in place that allows a business to operate in Maryland, which is a goal I thought we all shared. So with that, I'd ask the body to vote green on House Bill 817. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The clerk would take the call. You're
Madam
welcome.
Speaker.
The clerk would take the call. There being 107 votes in the affirmative and 21 votes in the negative, House Bill number 817, having received a constitutional majority, is declared pass. The clerk will call the next bill, please.
House Bill 982, Higher Education Tuition Exemption for Foster Care Recipients, Eligibility.
House Bill number 982, let's listen, please. Thank you. Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 128 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill number 982, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Madam Speaker, my button did not work on 982. I'd like to record it in the green, please. Thank you.
All right. Please turn in your yellow slip. Anyone else for vote change? Okay.
Madam Speaker?
Yes, recognize
On
gentleman
House-
from Baltimore County.
On House Bill 817, I want to be recorded in a yes.
Wonderful. Anyone else? Okay. The clerk will call the next bill.
House Bill 1445, Maryland Medical Assistance Program and Developmental Disabilities Administration, Home and Community-Based Services Eligibility Determinations, Maryland Protecting People with Disabilities Act.
House Bill number 1445 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill number 1445, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1574, Child Care Providers Licensing and Registration Alterations.
House Bill 1574 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 2 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1574, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker, vote change.
Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
House
welcome.
Bill 1587 to read.
All right, remember to turn in your yellow sheet. Anyone else? All right, Senate third reading calendar number 20. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 610, Natural Resources Invasive Blue Catfish Pilot Program, alterations.
Senate Bill number 610 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill 610, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 621, Public Safety State Fire Prevention Code, Trash and Recyclable Materials.
Senate Bill 621 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Any debate? The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 116 votes in the affirmative and 14 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 621, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 698, Vehicle Laws, Dangers, Accumulations of Snow and Ice, Removal from Exposed Vehicle Surfaces.
Senate Bill number 698 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments? Any debate? The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 698, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 740, Transportation Network Companies, Deactivation of Operators.
Senate Bill number 740 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative and 37 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 740, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 861, Environment, Stormwater Management for Agritourism.
Senate Bill 861 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Any debate? The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 126 votes in the affirmative and 6 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 861, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Vote change.
Recognizing the delegate from Harper.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
SB 621 to yay.
Recognizing the delegate from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. HB 1587 to read.
The delegate from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senate Bill 621 to read.
The delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senate Bill 740 to read, please.
The delegate from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senate Bill 861 to green.
The delegate from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. HB 982 to green. My button wasn't working, I should say.
The delegate from the Eastern Shore.
Senate Bill 982 to green.
The delegate from...
And Madam Speaker, House Bill 817 read.
Okay, you had 2. All right, the delegate from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you. My finger didn't work on Senate Bill 621 read.
All right, the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. HB 1164 to green.
The delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 1587 to read, please.
All right, anyone else? Okay, remember to turn in your yellow slips. We're doing Senate third reading calendar number 67. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 163, Income Tax Addition Modification for Federal Tax Exempt Income Alterations.
Senate Bill number 163 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Any debate? The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 163, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 233, Business Regulations, Cemeteries, Requirements for Sale or Transfer or Government Acquisition.
Senate Bill number 233 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Any debate? The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 233, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 311, Education, the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, Revisions.
Senate Bill number 311 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Any debate? Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. I have an amendment at the desk. It is amendment number 963924/1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment, Madam
So
Speaker.
order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
So this amendment, members of the House delegates and Madam Speaker, is a very straightforward amendment. It is based on exactly the bill of my good friend from Frederick, Maryland, who offered this in committee. And it has not been taken up. And the amendment requires Maryland to opt in to the scholarship granting organizations and create them. It's a federal program passed in the big, beautiful bill, which allows states, if they opt in, to create scholarship granting organizations, so-called SGOs, so that the people in your state can give up to $1,700 per person or $3,400 per couple to one of these scholarship granting organizations, and you get a tax deduction or tax credit dollar for dollar on your federal tax return. And these scholarship granting organizations, this is what the amendment does, actually will allow for tuition for kids who are stuck in failed schools. And you might ask yourself, well, gee, maybe we've heard something like this before, but actually you have in the committee. And I think it's important that as session is almost over, we only have a few days left, that Maryland opt into this program. And let me tell you why. It costs the taxpayers of Maryland nothing. Repeat, it costs the taxpayers of this state not a dollar. In fact, the study shows that if Maryland were to opt into this program, listen carefully, there could be as much as $500 million in Maryland scholarship granting organizations. The Maryland State Department of Education would, of course, identify these scholarship organizations. It would be private dollars, not public dollars, that would be gone into it. It would be voluntary for people who want to give to it. $500 million. I mean, the state is effectively broke because we have these budget deficits years into the future and all these unfunded mandates that we see being passed here, and also the pension liabilities and so forth. We've all talked about this all session. Here's an opportunity to actually save a lot of money and help a lot of kids. And for the life of me, I do not understand why we haven't opted into a program that helps the poorest of the poor stuck in the worst of the worst schools, and it doesn't cost us anything. Like, why would we do that? Why would we not opt in? And this really isn't a political issue. 77% of Democrats in Maryland support this program and programs like it. 77%. It is a landslide of people in this state who support helping children get out and get up and out of these failed schools and have opportunities. And folks, look, we've talked about this session about how many kids are getting into trouble across the state at really young ages. Teenagers, kids that aren't yet adults. Imagine how many we could save how many of these children we could save with scholarship granting organizations and putting them in schools that work better for them when we identify them very early as having issues. So this really, I mean, it costs us nothing. It saves us potentially $500 million. It saves lives. Why wouldn't we do this? And so, yes, you've heard this bill in committee, so please spare me. I've heard it in committee, and the committee is still considering it. No, they're not. There are a few days left. The committee's not considering it. So spare me that argument.
No one
And
has
tell
made
me-
the argument yet.
It's rhetoric, Madam Speaker.
Yeah, but no one
Yes.
has, so
Yes.
let's continue.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
why then haven't we opted into something that helps so many good people? And again, I'm looking forward to the explanation, because what I heard previously on a bill, the Federal Obligation Enforcement Act, is we want one Maryland. Oh, really? Apparently not. I'd really like to see, and of course, we all know who's stopping this bill from passing. It's not the good teachers of Maryland. It's not the teachers who work hard every day and are teaching in the classroom. It's the teacher union operatives who would rather see people fail and go to jail from being illiterate than they would allow kids to get up and out. And that's a fact. So how about if we opt into this bill once and for all? We opt into this program and save lives. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. The floor leader.
Thank you. Thank you for presenting this amendment. I would ask the body to resist this amendment. This proposal is based on a component of H.R. 1 on the federal level, which sort of opens the door for such a program, but the rules to actually implement, which are critical, are not in place. They don't exist. So the Treasury Department on the federal government level is still working to promulgate them. And until and unless we have those, there's really nothing that we can do in the state of Maryland to act upon this. In fact, the H.R. 1 also had said that the statute provides that the governor is able to respond should those rules be promulgated. So we don't need to take action right now. With that, I would ask the body to resist the amendment. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Western Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
This reminds me of a saying my neighbor used to use. It's cutting off your nose to spite your face. Every Marylander can contribute $1,700 to this program and get that credit back on their federal tax return. Other states have figured it out. I think Maryland's smart enough to also figure it out. But what we're doing is allowing Marylanders to make that $1,700 donation, get that money back on their federal tax return, and that money will go to some other state. How does that really help Marylanders?
Recognizing the floor leader.
Again, the states may have indicated their interest to participate in a program should one materialize, but no program exists right now. So those states that you're referring to there is no program for them to opt in. They're still waiting for guidance from this Treasury Department on the federal level, much like we are. Thank you.
I have 3 people standing. I need the gentleman from Anne Arundel. Will you be so kind? And I'm going to go back to the gentleman from Western Maryland.
Again, other states have adopted it. Maryland can adopt it. The credit is already available to be available on your federal tax return. Why would we delay implementation? Makes no sense.
Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I stand to support the gentleman's amendment. Kentucky, Indiana, Arizona, North Carolina are early adopters of this action. We spoke earlier today about federal funds and how Maryland could utilize federal funding. This is a great opportunity for Marylanders. I stand with the gentleman, and we can do this. We have the opportunity to do this. We have an opportunity to take advantage of this program. We should do this amendment. We should do this for Marylanders. As a first-generation college student, I stand for these scholarships. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you. With regard to this proposal, again, that hasn't materialized, right now we're hoping that when the Treasury Department promulgates these rules, we'll have a sense of how to even watch and safeguard these dollars that you're referring to. One of the rules, one of the information in the promulgation would be how to safeguard against waste, fraud, and abuse. Right, so you are referring to $1,700 that Marylanders might be contributing towards this program, but how do we actually ensure that that money is being taken care of? That is just one reason among many that we have to be cautious and wait again for guidance and a promulgation from the federal government before we pursue this further.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote?
Madam Speaker.
The gentleman wants to explain his vote?
Please.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I'm going to support this amendment today because our governor told us that he didn't want to leave anybody behind. And I think time and time again we're doing that. This amendment is an opportunity to fix that problem. Right now is the right time to do the right thing, not make excuses as to why we can't do what other states have done. I'm green.
Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate the time. To explain my vote on an amendment that saves children in failed schools, 84% of Baltimore City 8th graders are illiterate. And what we're hearing from the floor leader and the majority party is they're worried about waste, fraud, and abuse. And 84% of Baltimore City 8th graders are illiterate, using the perfect system that we've had forever that isn't working for them. If you were really worried about waste, fraud, and abuse, you would have gotten those children out of those failed schools a long time ago. This amendment solves that problem to a large degree. It is a huge step in the right direction. I really look forward to one day amendments like this passing. I can't for the life of me see why this state wouldn't want to opt in to something that would raise $500 million to help the least among us. For all those reasons, Madam Speaker, I'm voting for this amendment.
The clerk will take the call. There being 92 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is auto-printed for third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Third reading.
Sorry, it's on third reading. All right. So the clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker.
It's okay, don't worry. It's okay. Okay. Okay? Got it? Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative and 37 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 311, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 346, Civil Actions, Violation of Constitutional Rights, No Kings Act.
Okay. So Senate Bill 346 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the minority leader.
I don't have an amendment, Madam Speaker, but I would like to ask a question if the floor leader would indulge me.
Sure. Floor
Thank you.
leader, you're welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to present a hypothetical to you and see whether or not it will qualify under this bill. My understanding of it is that it will enable a Maryland state resident to sue a federal officer, federal entity for what they perceive to be a violation of their federal constitutional rights in state court. Is that a fair overall summary of what the bill intends to do?
The only correction is it will almost definitely be removed to federal court.
Okay, so you would begin the case in state court and it would be through the reverse 1983 process removed to a federal court to consider the claim.
Or potentially you could bring it in federal court in my view. But yes,
Okay.
either way I think it will end up in federal court in most instances.
Hypothetically, if let's say Maryland had a statute that banned the sale of certain 9mm handguns. And I owned a license, I was a licensed firearms dealer. I owned a gun store, essentially. And after the bill was passed, agents of the state of Maryland came to my store, and I sold the gun, believing it to be lawful. It wasn't equipped with the switch that we've talked so much about. It was just a normally manufactured 9mm gun that may have been on a prohibited list that now shall be developed by the state police. And the state police or some other entity of the state of Maryland came and arrested me. And after I was arrested, and perhaps after a lot of the inventory of my store was taken off the shelves, maybe my business goes under, maybe I go bankrupt. And then during the time that there's litigation, let's assume there's litigation in my hypothetical about the propriety of the bill, and a court, maybe any old court, a court decision, U.S. District Court, State Supreme Court, Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, any old court, comes back and says, you know that bill that you guys passed that said you can't sell those guns? It's unconstitutional. It's unconstitutional. Can't do it. Does the individual in my hypothetical who owns that gun store that may have been arrested, may have lost, suffered grievous financial loss, do they have the ability to sue the state of Maryland to recoup what they lost if our actions here in the General Assembly are deemed to be unconstitutional?
So this bill has nothing to do with your hypothetical. You're describing state officials, not federal officials.
So, but the answer would be no, though, right? So the bill was saying we're going to be able to sue feds, but if we do something unconstitutional in this room, in this body, and then the agents of the state go out and enforce our unconstitutional laws, there is no redress similarly against us. Is that fair?
Well, no, because there's immunity. So a state officer acting under the color of law that we pass would be protected by qualified immunity.
Okay.
Well protected. So there would not be a theory under existing 1983. But again, what you're describing is not touched by this bill at all.
Right, it's not touched by this bill. That's the argument I'm trying to make, is so that I think we see a theme, and I appreciate it, and you don't have to stay up any longer, I don't need to call, but I think we see a theme of one set of rules for the feds and one set of rules for us. So we can do things, and when they're deemed unconstitutional, if they hurt people, if people get arrested because of them, and then it turns out, whoopsie, that law we arrested you under, we shouldn't have done that. If people lose their businesses because of it, whoopsie, it's okay, we've got qualified immunity. But if the federal government does something that we don't like and comes in, we can sue you. We're going to create a new cause of action, we can sue you. We're going to impede you. I very much like to have the same set of rules for everybody. I don't know. It was inculcated in me as a child, I think, that while people are different, we don't have different sets of rules for people based upon who we like, who we don't like, what they look like, what they don't look like, one system versus the other. We have the same set of rules. And what this bill does, let's just be honest, what this bill is, it's another one of the 10, 20, 30, 50, 5,635 bills this year that is intended to vent the spleen at ICE. That's all it is. That's what it's here for. And at the same time, can we at least logically recognize that we do things and we pass laws and people who work for the state of Maryland go out and enforce those that also hurt people. And we should take that significantly into account. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Floor leader.
Thank you. If I may, that is, and I say this with great respect, just not the case. What this is doing is the opposite. It is creating exactly the same set of laws for federal officials as currently exist for state officials, identical. And dating back, and I had some time to do some research from early this morning. This principle dates back to the Federalist Papers, in which James Madison explained that this beautiful form of government we were creating, and I was even going to maybe mention McCullough v. Maryland, excuse me, dating back to the Federalist Papers, the concept that that underlies our structure is that both the states and the federal government have the duty and the obligation and the right to enforce the U.S. Constitution and protect the rights that we are all granted. So this is really, it's doing the opposite of what you just described. It is the state empowering its residents and Attorney General to protect the U.S. Constitution, just as 1983 enforces that against state and local officers. It does the same for federal officers. It creates no additional theories. It is just enforcing the U.S. Constitution and related laws that exist today as understood by our federal courts. Thank you.
The minority whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm proud to say I went into the back and got a glass of water, so I feel better now. But I do have some questions about the bill, if you wouldn't mind answering a couple questions. One, the Attorney General did provide a letter of information. I understand the bill's been heavily amended, and I'll just say it for the record. So the Attorney General's letter had some constitutionality concerns in the letter of information. Have all those concerns been addressed with the amendments?
That is my understanding. And in fact, one of their additional concerns was the exclusion of the task force officers, which was added as well.
Okay. And then also the judiciary provided a letter of unfavorability. Has that been adjusted with the corresponding amendments?
Yes, the judiciary did not like the term judicial officer, understandably, even though it was defined not to include them, but they did not like that, and so we now have the term covered officer.
Okay, thank you for answering those questions. So since we're on third reader on the bill, one, I'll just say I don't like the title of the bill. You know, I have certain feelings about it. I don't think the title is necessary. If we're going after bad actors, maybe that's worthwhile. I think any officer, any federal officer that breaks the law should be held accountable. Any state officer that breaks the law should be held accountable. What we saw in Minneapolis, and I know they're still, I guess, adjudicating what happened there, but nobody wants to see that. I don't want to see that. But it is my feeling that this bill, along with several others, are, you know, kind of, it appears it's in response to the federal government. That it's kind of, I don't want to use any particular words here, but I just don't think this bill is necessary, to be honest with you, because I think there are things in place that if you're a federal officer, whether you're an immigration officer or any other that many federal officers there are, and you break the law or you violate someone's constitutional rights, you should be held accountable, of course. But I don't think that's what this bill is. I think this bill is, as the minority leader said, one of many bills this year to kind of say something about maybe they don't like what they see, so they're putting in a bill to show that. So for those reasons, I'll be voting red on this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could the floor leader rise?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
For those of us that aren't lawyers, can you put in common language what this bill does?
Oh, with pleasure. So I think I've said this before. The federal government passed a law in the wake of the Civil War called Section 1983, which allows persons in a state to sue state and local officials for violation of constitutional laws. This applies the same theory, creates a cause of action for the same people in Maryland, except with regard to federal officials. So the way that you could sue under federal law if a police officer held you in a, unconstitutionally deprived you of one of your rights, you could sue them in federal court. This would allow you to do the same if it was a federal law enforcement official.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, I have an amendment at the desk. It's 903027/1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So this is a quite simple amendment. For those of you following along at home, you can click on it or just learn that we have included an agent of the IRS in this ability to seek redress. And you might ask, why would we do that? Well, you may recall when the IRS was weaponized against conservatives. And they actually put an order out to their agents. These are agents that don't carry guns, they carry pencils. And that's why we have to put them in there, because they're not armed IRS agents. They're IRS agents that come and do a job and sometimes harass people. For instance, they were searching for anyone that used the word patriot or the word Tea Party. And they weaponized the federal government, the IRS, against folks. So I think you're right. We shouldn't have kings in the IRS. And so I think this is a great amendment. It should be a friendly amendment because you all want to be protected from that as well. So I move my amendment.
Floor leader?
Thank you. It is so friendly, it is not necessary because IRS agents do fall within the definition of covered officer. I'm going to point you to, let me see, what is 26 U.S. Code 7608, which describes the IRS agents, investigators, et cetera, who very specifically have the authority to arrest, execute warrants, and they do in fact carry firearms. So the investigation work that is done by the IRS is done by these agents. They fall directly within the definition in the law.
Yes, but there are two types of agents. Hence, that's why I said the ones that carry pencils. So this is indeed a very necessary amendment if that is your wish and your will, which I understood you discussed this in the judiciary, and you thought that indeed it would cover IRS agents from harassing patriots and Tea Party activists, and let's say they picked another word to go after, like no kings. But both types are not in that part of the code.
So this doesn't apply to many federal employees who are not do not meet the definition of covered officer. So this is limited to those who would be in a position to violate constitutional rights because they have the authority to detain people, to search homes, et cetera. So I would ask the body to resist the amendment. If your intention is to include every employee of the IRS, we are not including every employee of every federal agency. These are covered officers.
No,
so.
It's actually not that, because if you read the amendment, Madam Floor Leader, it says an agent of the IRS. That's not everybody. That are certain people, and there are two types of agents, and these agents carry pencils, not firearms. So if indeed that is your will and wish and desire and intention to include the IRS, which I think is wonderful because certainly, they did have a history of harassing and acting like kings. This is an amendment that I would assume you would consider to be friendly because it covers all your bases for you.
Again, no, I would resist the amendment if that is your intention. If you look at the U.S. Code, this includes any investigator, agent, or other Internal Revenue officer who has been designated to enforce criminal seizure, forfeiture provisions by the Secretary and who carry firearms and execute and serve warrants. So I am going to ask the body to resist the amendment. We want to be consistent and treat the IRS just as we do every other federal agency. Thank you very much.
Yes, but again, I'll say they don't carry firearms. And we have to guard life, liberty, and property. And the IRS has every opportunity to deprive you of your property and your liberty. So I think this is a good amendment. I urge the body to vote green.
Question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The noes have it. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their votes? Would anyone like to change their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 95 votes in the negative, 37 in the affirmative, the amendment fails.
Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the bill. On the bill, violation of constitutional rights, the No King Act. There's so much content to work with this session here. I didn't know whether to talk about redistricting or the violation of private property rights or racial preference bills that have come in. There's been a lot of stuff to work with. Even in the last couple days, we can make a case that just today, there was an election disinformation bill that's probably unconstitutional. There was a banning of Glocks, that's unconstitutional. We just passed a bill to lean on federal facilities, that's unconstitutional. And about 2 weeks ago, we passed a Muslim and Jewish holiday bill that likely violates the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. There's so much stuff to talk about violation of constitutional rights, but let me focus on what this bill is. It is at least the 8th or 9th ICE bill or anti-federal government ICE bill that we've had this session. This entire session seemingly has been to kneecap our federal partners. And I find that horrifying because 2 days ago in Wacomico County, it was that county's largest drug bust in their history. They had 94 pounds of cocaine, enough fentanyl to kill 40 people. You want to talk about saving lives? Well, they just did it. And guess what? You had the DEA working, you had the state police, you had Homeland Security, and oh my God, do you know what else agency worked with them? ICE. This is another bill that stands in the way of ICE making our citizens safe. You've gone through so much trouble this session that you even put in a budget amendment to penalize those counties, like Wacomico, that are working with ICE. So you've got to ask, whose side are you on? Are you on the side of the cartels? Or are you on the side of the American people? I'm voting red on this because I want public safety. I want Marylanders to be safe. And this is just one more tool of the 9th bill that we passed to go after federal officers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bill is on third reading and final passage. Delegate from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a reason why these bills are before us. Respected constitutional scholars fear the consequences of our constitutional rights, of actions that are being taken by this federal government. It's not out of some political reason or personal pique that these suits are being brought, that these bills are being before us today. Serious, respected constitutional scholars are fearful of the actions being taken by the federal government and the threat they pose to our constitutional rights. This is not an individual effort or not some of the references that have been made during the course of this debate denigrating the legitimacy of the actions that have been brought. I urge a green vote.
Bill's on third reading. Delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question for the floor leader, please.
Floor leader.
Yes.
Good evening, I guess, right now. So we had some discussion about, I believe, the House cross-file of this a couple weeks ago. It could have been a couple months ago at this point. I'm not sure when that was. I'm looking at the reprint here, still concerned about preemption issues for the Coast Guard. Were those issues addressed at all in the Senate version of this bill? Doesn't appear that they are.
No, because it would just not apply. If there's a theory, then that would be a reason for the suit to be dismissed.
So
I think there's not a need to amend the bill.
So a foreign national that is on a vessel boarded in federal waters in the Chesapeake Bay by a Coast Guard agent, then theoretically, though, by the way that this is written, could still try to bring suit in a Maryland court. I think that would ultimately be not constitutional, but by the way this is written, that could still occur, right?
They could potentially try, but then if there are merits to your point, then that would be a basis for dismissal of the claim.
But why wouldn't we want to address that now and just?
Well, there's no similar. In the 1983 law, there's nothing similar in terms of statutory language. So I
Okay.
don't think it's necessary.
Okay, thank you. On the bill, Mr. Speaker. So on the bill, you know, I'm going to be a red vote for the reasons I just said. I think that there are obvious constitutional issues with this bill. I think there are federal preemption issues with this bill, and I just don't think it's a good practice to pass laws that potentially have federal preemption issues in them. So I'm going to be a red vote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bill is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will take the roll.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Would anyone like to change their vote, perhaps after they've come in from the lounge? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 95 votes in the affirmative and 39 votes in the negative, Senate Bill 346, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 410, Public Library, State Library Resource Center funding.
Senate Bill 410 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill? Is there any, to the bill or to its title, is there any debate? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone cast their vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 108 votes in the affirmative and 24 votes in the negative, Senate Bill 410, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 685, State Department of Education, Sexual Abuse and Sexual Misconduct Model Response Policy Requirements.
Senate Bill 685 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 133 votes in the affirmative and no votes in the negative, Senate Bill 685, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Mr. Speaker.
Vote changes. Oh.
I know.
The chair of judiciary.
I know. The shame.
Indeed. Never used to happen. I mean, really.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to change my vote on amendment number 903027 for Senate Bill 346 to, actually my button didn't work, so I'd like to be recorded in the red. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Vote change SB 621 to green and HB 1587 to red.
Delegate from Baltimore County.
Yes, sir. House Senate Bill 410 to nay.
All right. House bill amended in the Senate, House Bill 769. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 769, State Board of Social Work Examiners Provisional License to Practice Social Work, established, amendment number 1.
The Committee Chair for Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We would move not to concur and
Question
would request.
before the House is to not concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes and the whistles have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Cullison chair, Delegate Riley, and Delegate White Holland. Said bill is returned herewith.
House bill amended in the Senate, House Bill 813. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 813, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, coverage for the treatment of obesity, authorization. Amendment
Chair
number 1.
of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Health Committee would request that we not concur with the Senate.
Question before the House is to not concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee To confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Hill Chair, Delegate Martinez, and Delegate Hutchinson. Said bill is returned herewith.
House bill amended in the Senate, House Bill 1118. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 1118, Health Insurance and Health Occupations, Perinatal Behavioral Health Conditions, Amendment Number 1.
Chair of the Health Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Health Committee respectfully requests that we not concur and that we go immediately to Conference Committee.
Question before the House is to not concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate White Holland Chair, Delegate Riley, and Delegate Warman. Said bill is returned herewith.
Concurrence calendar number 6. The clerk will read the first bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 772, Behavioral Health Rate Methodology Modernization, Workgroup Establishment and Study, Amendment Number 1.
Chair Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The amendments alter the composition of the work group, removing one of the two senators and one of the two delegates, adding Representative of Medkai, and we would respectfully ask to concur.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 772 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will take the roll.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 124 votes in the affirmative and 5 votes in the negative, House Bill 772, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will call the next bill.
House Bill 1015, Developmental Disability Services, Expedited Eligibility Determinations for Recently Relocated Individuals, Ralph's Act, Amendment Number 1.
Clerk, the Chair of the Health Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The amendments make various technical and clarifying changes, specify that the department must make expedited eligibility determinations with 60 business days, and we would respectfully ask to concur.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1015 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 132 votes in the affirmative and no votes in the negative, House Bill 1015, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will call the next bill.
House Bill 1135, Health Occupations, Pharmacist Vaccination Orders.
Chair of the Health Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The amendments strike provisions limiting the bill to transnasal administration, altering the parties authorized to administer the vaccination, and altering the information reported to Immunet. We would respectfully ask to concur.
House Bill 1135 is on third reading and final. The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1135 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 103 votes in the affirmative and 29 votes in the negative, House Bill 1135, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk called the next bill.
House Bill 1357, Consumer Protection, Menstrual Hygiene Products Labeling Requirements.
Committee Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The amendment strike the penalty provisions, defines confidential substance, and makes other technical changes. We would respectfully ask to concur.
Question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1357 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 132 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill 1357, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will call the next bill.
House Bill 1372, Public Health Office of Healthcare Quality Information and Maryland Health Centralization Commission.
Committee Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The amendments alter the information about a facility that must be posted to the MHCC website, and we would respectfully ask to concur.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1372, an emergency bill, is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 131 votes in the affirmative, 1 vote in the negative, the House Bill 1372, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will call the next bill.
House Bill 1376, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, Maryland Children's Health Program, and health insurance transfers to special pediatric hospitals requirements.
Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The amendments increase from 2 to 3 business days the time MDH has to respond to a prior authorization request, and shifts the scope of the retrospective review from July of 2025 to January of 2025. Please, we respectfully ask to concur.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1376 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 131 votes in the affirmative and 2 votes in the negative, House Bill 1376, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Mr. Speaker?
Vote changes.
Yes.
Delegate from
Thank
Harford
you.
County.
Thank you. I wasn't fast enough on HB 772. I'd like to be recorded in the nay. Thank you.
All right. Delegate from Baltimore County.
Thanks. House Bill 772 to nay.
Delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 772 to nay.
Anybody else? Message from the Senate. House Bill 1532. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1532, Utility Relief, Reducing Energy Load Inflation for Everyday Families Act, Amendment number 1.
The clerk will read the message from the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate does not recede in the Senate amendments and agrees to a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses. The House has appointed Delegate Corman chair, Delegate Frazier Hidalgo, Delegate Guyton. The Senate appoints Senator Feldman chair, Senator Hester, and Senator Simon Ayer. Said bill is returned to your with.
That ends the work at the desk. Committee announcements, appropriations.
Thank you. The Appropriations Committee will briefly vote in the old House chamber right after session.
Economic matters.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Economic matters will not be meeting.
Environment and transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Have a great evening.
Government, labor, and elections.
Glee is not meeting.
Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Health Committee will not be meeting tonight.
Judiciary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Judiciary will not be meeting tonight.
Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Ways and Means Committee will not be meeting tonight. Have a great night.
Subcommittee announcements. Delegate from Howard County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Health Facilities Committee Subcommittee will be meeting at 10:30 tomorrow a.m. on Zoom.
Further subcommittee announcements. Seeing none. Delegation announcements. Delegation announcements. Chair of the Baltimore City Delegation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Baltimore City House delegation will meet tomorrow, Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Zoom. Please watch your text for updates. Thank you.
Any other delegation announcements? Is there a vote change at the back? All right. Delegate from Anne Arundel County with a vote change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 346 to yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right. Any caucus announcements? Chair of the Republican Caucus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Republican Caucus will meet tomorrow morning at 9:30 in room 145.
Chair of the Veterans Caucus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Veterans Caucus will have their annual photo tomorrow morning at 8:50 a.m. 8:50 a.m. on the front steps of the State House.
Delegate from Howard County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I need to amend my subcommittee meeting tomorrow morning because obviously I was uninformed. So we will be meeting at 9:30. Health Facilities, 9:30. Thank you.
Any other caucus announcements? Personal or guest announcements? The delegate from Prince George's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just real briefly, with the understanding that we will be meeting on Saturday, it is my intent, permission to use delegates' names.
Granted.
To be as bipartisan as possible. Delegate Kaiser, Delegate Riley, and Delegate April, which one is it? Rose, I'm joking. And myself will be convening the Sneaker Caucus on Saturday. After the first session, join us on the steps for a picture with the founding members, and Delegate Dana Jones. Join us on the front steps for the Sneaker Caucus photos. Thank you so much.
Delegate from Frederick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, last week was the penultimate meeting of the Karaoke Caucus. Tonight is the ultimate meeting of the Karaoke Caucus. It will be epic. It will be grand. If you miss it, you will be regretting it for the rest of the session. 8 o'clock tonight at the Residence Inn. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to announce a couple of guests in the gallery here with us today from permission to use the delegate's name.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Joining me in welcoming from District 15, Delegate Frazier Duggo, Delegate Chi and I welcome Phil Fabrizio and his wife, Denise Fabrizio. Phil is president of the Maryland Photographers Association.
Delegate from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I got a Dove chocolate and almond foil today. And it says, you made it this far. Keep going. 4 more days, colleagues. 4 more days.
Any further personal or guest announcements? Seeing none, quorum call.
Mr. Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their presence? The clerk will take the call. There being 124 members present, the House is still in session. Recognizing the majority leader, please listen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House stands adjourned until Friday, April 10th at 10 o'clock a.m. Legislative date, March 25th.
10 a.m. tomorrow, 10 a.m.